that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
Flat Earth versus Glow. We have Austin, Witsit Gets It, and we have Malachi. Malachi is going to open us up for tonight. So Malachi, the floor is all yours.
Okay, I'm just going to start with a little intro, kind of an opening. I wrote it down, so pardon me for reading what I wrote, but whatever. Okay, so I'm not really here to try to present some overwhelming evidence that the Earth is a sphere, but I'm going to go through a few pieces. Our planet's spherical nature has been thoroughly studied and observed and proven over time and again, by countless scientists, explorers, and even ordinary people. So let's explore a little bit of the evidence. First and foremost, let us consider the observations of our early explorers, Ferdinand Magellan. Him and his crew embarked on their famous circumnavigation voyage in the 16th century. They sailed westward, ultimately returning to their starting point. And this monumental achievement clearly demonstrates that the Earth is not flat, but a curved surface. If it were flat, Magellan and his crew would have fallen off. If you ever have the opportunity to travel long distances, whether it be across continents or vast bodies of water, you will notice an intriguing phenomenon that the disappearance of ships over the horizon. This is probably something that people have talked a lot about. As the ships sail away from the shore, it gradually disappears from the view. Only the mast really remains visible. Same thing happens if you're on a ship sailing away. I was in the Navy for a long time. I've seen this quite a few times. The occurrence is consistent with the curvature of the Earth, and if the Earth were flat, the entire ship would remain visible regardless of the distance. The gradual disappearance of ships is direct visual evidence that we live on a spherical planet. Another compelling piece of evidence comes from the study of gravity. Gravity, as we know, is a force attracts objects towards the center of the mass. It acts uniformly in all directions, creating a balanced distribution of mass on a sphere, which is why you weigh roughly the same absolutely everywhere on the planet. Although there are some slight variations, it could go in the higher altitudes, but that actually tracks with how gravity has been modeled to operate. Consistent nature of the Earth means you get gravity all over the place. Lunar eclipses is a clear indication that the Earth is a sphere. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth comes between the sun and the moon, casting its shadow on the moon's surface. The shadow is always round, regardless of the orientation of the moon or the position of the observer. The only explanation for this is a consistent round shadow. Is that the Earth itself must be spherical. There's also photographic evidence, lots of stuff from space. You can see the curvature of the Earth. Curvature of other planets. It seems strange to say that the Earth is flat, but the other planets are not. Those images all coalesce to reveal a beautiful blue sphere with recognizable continents, oceans, and cloud formation. These visuals confirm what centuries of scientific exploration and observation had already proven: the Earth is a sphere. And that's kind of the end of what I wrote, although I changed a little bit because I don't want to be boring to myself. On a second note, rather than having a strict, hard debate, I'm not really sure you're going to get that from me. What you're going to get is a launch of inquiry into the understanding of this perspective. I find it pretty intriguing, and I hope that this is a pretty relaxed and productive debate so that people can understand each other a little bit better. So, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Malachi. We'll kick it over to you, Austin, for your up to 10-minute opening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. All right. I'm going to try to breeze through this presentation. I'm going to start my timers. All right, so Flat Earth 101. So let's cover some basics of debate that oftentimes get left out of this conversation. Falsification is independent of replacement. Example, you think you have biological parents, they actually adopted you, you find the evidence you were adopted. They don't become your real parents until you find out who your real parents are. Falsified that they're your biological parents until you find out who they really are. So falsification is independent of replacement. The burden of proof is on the one making the positive claim, and shifting the burden of proof is the fallacy of putting the burden of proof on the person who denies or questions the assertion being made, which is very important in this discussion. For example, if you tell me that dinosaurs and rockets go to space and unicorns exist, and you say, I read it in a book, you're making a positive claim. You say, look, I have a picture of a unicorn. That doesn't mean that unicorns exist. Unicorn pictures in books don't prove anything. But if you make the positive claim, you have the burden of proof. Oftentimes, what happens is flat Earth is strawmanned with incredibly egregious and inept representations of the actual position. This is called a strawman fallacy. Why don't you fall off the edge of your space pizza? Attacking a misrepresentation of the other person's argument, which was alluded to in his opener. Another fallacy I hope to avoid is an ad hominem fallacy, attacking the person instead of the argument. Like flat earthers just don't understand basic science. Credentials fallacy pops up a lot, saying, well, your argument can be dismissed because the person asserting the argument doesn't have the proper credentials to make that argument. That's called credentials fallacy. The appeal to majority, an example would be every 7 billion people believe the Earth's a ball, but you think you're right. It's an argument for an unproved conclusion based on the beliefs of a large group of people, which is fallacious. Appealing to the authority of whoever it is that makes the claim is also, of course, a fallacy. All scientists agree. Another one that we get a lot of is poisoning the well, using ad hominem attacks to preemptively discredit the opponent. This is obviously fallacious and inadmissible in intellectual forum. All flat earthers are science-denying religious conspiracy theorists, as an example. We also have the begging the question fallacy. One of the most popular fallacies in this discussion, hands down. Every single evidence I've ever been provided for the Earth being a sphere is something that begs the question that the Earth's a sphere. Every single one of them. 5-6 years into this, I've yet to be given one piece of empirical evidence that supports the globe Earth, void of fallacious reasoning. I honestly don't think it exists at this point. But here's an example. The globe model says the sun goes beneath the Earth, so sunsets prove the Earth's a globe. All right, so also shifting the burden of proof, which we covered earlier. Say you show me a picture like he alluded to of the Earth being a ball from space, and I say, pictures can be faked. I don't buy that. Or replicated clouds all over the place. It's supposed to be a live image every 10 minutes or less. It takes 40 minutes for them to give it to us. I don't believe it. And then you say, prove the images from space are not real. Prove they're fake. You're shifting the burden on the person denying or challenging the positive assertion that that's a picture from a vacuum of the Earth being a ball. Okay, to get into specific this argument, everyone was taught the Earth's a ball from a young age, just like these children here are being indoctrinated with a pseudoscientific globe. This is why everyone here that believes the Earth's a globe believes it. And if anyone's going to be honest, that is why people believe the Earth's a globe. That's why, of course, all flat earthers once believed the Earth was a globe. You were taught that. You were told to make a model of the solar system. Everyone assumes it. Everyone assumes scientists have done it for them. They believe stories like someone navigated and proved it, and they're afraid to go against the majority. They simply blindly believe what they were taught as a child. Therefore, that is the majority positive claim here, as we were all told the Earth is a ball from a young age. So what does the globe Earth claim? It makes three predominant claims. Number one is that it's a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles, which of course has the burden of proof to substantiate that the Earth bends convexly at a rate consistent with that radius value. Claim number two, that the Earth is spinning over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator while revolving around the sun 66,600 miles per hour on an axial tilt of 66.6 degrees. This is a very specific positive claim. No one here has ever felt the Earth spinning, nor is there any empirical measurement for it. And the current model actually says, everything happens on the Earth as if it is at rest, to quote Einstein. So we need actual evidence of that claim. Claim number three, the Earth's in a vacuum of space. You would have to support the fact that that's even scientifically possible to have a gas pressure system sitting next to a vacuum. Just saying that's what it claims is the case isn't substantial. The heliocentric model has the burden of proof for these positive claims. And believe it or not, this is a cartoon. This actually is not real, which is pretty much all we ever get from space. Cartoons for adults. So wait, isn't saying the Earth is flat a positive claim? Of course it is. So it is a positive claim. And I know a lot of people are probably already freaking out in the chat, so I'm not reading it. He thinks he doesn't have to provide positive evidence for the flat Earth. Now, despite me about to do this for the remaining 4 minutes, people will still say no evidence was provided for flat Earth, but that is cognitive dissonance. So flat is the description of a surface. Flat is not a shape. We have the burden of proof to show that the surface of the earth is flat, specifically a topographical plane. Flat's a description. You can have a flat, square, triangle, circle. Flat's not a shape. To say that you're saying the shape of the earth is flat really lacks specificity. And as insane as it is that I had to put that slide in there, I definitely did. Okay, so we have the burden of proof to show that the surface of the earth is flat, and this has been done. Let's check it out. Radio waves can be sent over 10,000 miles with no earth curvature obstruction. When this was first done, they said, oh, it bounced off the ionosphere. That's why it went past the curvature of the earth. They claim that nothing over 40 megahertz can go through the ionosphere. World record radio propagation shows that megahertz frequencies up to 106 megahertz can go over 2,700 miles. That should be blocked by the curvature of the earth around 200 miles. You can't study the ionosphere because it's too high of a frequency, debunks the globe. Shows the surface has to be flat to propagate horizontally. Magnetic declination is required to correct for the inaccuracy of the symmetrical spherical assumption when navigating. The typo. As you can see in the south, it's not symmetrical to the north, which makes no sense on the sphere until you understand that the south is much bigger on the plane Earth, and they have to do this to account for the discrepancies, well documented by the world's governments as they initially explored in expeditions out south. All right. So here's some examples. They found themselves off 12 to 16 miles by observation every day. They were off 58 miles in 2 days. This is the United States exploring expedition, also off 20 miles in less than 18 hours. When they went south, it didn't work. That's actually evidence that the assumption of the sphere is incorrect. Here's a military document for ground weapon systems called propagation over electromagnetic fields, or of electromagnetic fields over a flat Earth. It, of course, assumes the Earth's a dielectric plane, shoots electromagnetic waves out horizontally to hit the target and attack the enemy. So this literally doesn't work unless you assume the waves are being propagated out horizontally on a plane. So, of course, when it comes to actually having to get the bad guy, the military knows they have to assume the Earth is flat. Same here for the computationally efficient algorithms for estimating the angle of arrival of helicopters. Can't even accurately land using acoustic rays unless you assume the Earth is flat. Same for the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. People say they do this just to make the math simpler. Well, that's weird. If the Earth's a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball, why don't we just account for what it actually is? I thought that scientists knew all about the math, and that's what proves the globe. Another evidence for flat Earth is something called specular reflection. As you see here, you have a complete specular reflection from this mountain on this water. This water must be flat to do that. Any concavity or convexity to the surface of the water would have a distorted image. It's impossible to have a specular reflection on a body of water that has any convexity. So here's an example of just a little bit of disturbance in the water, showing you that, of course, you do not get a specular reflection unless the water's calm and flat. We see these all over the Earth, over huge stretches, miles and miles of water. Here's an example, or here's it being broken down for you. You have a diffuse reflection whenever the water is not calm and flat. In order to have the actual reflection bounce back up to the observer, it has to be flat. We have these over vast distances all over the Earth. Horizon's been seen over 10 times beyond the geometric limitations of the globe, requiring the radius value to be over 250,000 miles, a little different than 4,000. Observation 600 miles away, the mountain should be obstructed by 40 miles. So the entire globe model depends on the accuracy of the claimed radius value, everything, gravity, day and night, everything. The radius value's been falsified. Welcome to flat Earth. So there you go. There's the positive. This is not real. This is a cartoon, and it is okay. We all once thought it was real. So hopefully we can have a respectful conversation, leave out the fallacies, get to the evidence, and get to the bottom of it. Thank you.
They can try to keep me silent, but I'm a shouting from the mountain. No, I'm not backing down.
I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see.
I mean, what do you think? The Illuminati are a big thing? Like, do you think that the Freemasons
This is
started?
called, I covered this in my presentation. This is called poisoning the well, right? So
I'm asking you questions. I'm asking you questions, and if you don't want to answer them because it makes you look kind of crazy, that's fine. Just tell me you don't want to answer them.
Don't project so much, man. It's weird. So like,
I'm not projecting. I'm launching. Look, I'm trying to investigate your worldview because I'm trying to see how someone could get from like this really like simple and incredibly well-known fact about the Earth and start to degrade their own confidence in it and start to present these completely different models.
Yeah.
Ready. Set. There. Well, let's play that back and see what the heck I did this time.
Won't provide any science or evidence in this entire debate. You'll just keep saying the words, but I just don't trust government agencies blindly, which means that appealing to NASA is not sufficient evidence. And the reason I don't believe in NASA is I've actually caught them lying. So whenever astronauts disappear from frame on the ISS and their hands go through microphones, I don't believe it's impossible that they're showing me fake images. I've seen dozens of hours of fake footage from the ISS. So I don't believe in NASA, who use clone tools on their cloud images. So I don't need to believe in that. We should be able to easily verify it on the Earth. Why would I believe in a government agency I've caught lying multiple times? The truth is, you've probably never looked at the footage that they've messed up on using VR and harnesses, and you can see it. So why would I believe that? That's weird to me. Like, it's weird to believe in the government who admits their objective is to control what the public think for national security purposes. No one accounts for Coriolis, and if you say that it's built into the machine, that's a cool story. And even if there is Coriolis, it doesn't even prove that the Earth is moving. It doesn't even prove that the Earth is moving. So in reality, what they do, when they shoot a long distance, if they did account for Coriolis, it would basically not change anything. Wind is way more of a factor, so you have to account for that. If you miss your target to the right, it's because of wind. Nothing to do with Coriolis. Now, you could say long-distance artillery shells or something, but same thing. They miss their targets all the time and then have to correct, and the primary factor is wind. And even if Coriolis was real, it doesn't prove the Earth is spinning, because if the entire sky is moving around the Earth, it would translate a force to the Earth. So I don't know if you've looked into any of this yet.
Right, I'm still so curious, right? Because it's like, okay.
What is a fact is that the Antarctic Treaty doesn't allow us to explore there. We can disagree on why they're doing that, and is it to hide the shape of the Earth or whatever, but what is just a fact is that what would prove the globe is to circumnavigate north to south, go over Antarctica, and pop back up on the other side of a ball. What's illegal to do is freely and privately explore Antarctica and try to go over the continent and pop back up on the other side of the ball, and no one's ever done it. So yes, it's sketchy that we're not allowed to freely and privately explore. It's not what I think a conspiracy is going on, or no, it's just admittedly the case. You can't go there.
How you think that we are standing on this planet? Like, how does it work?
Okay, bye.
We're not on a planet, dude. So the Earth's
Whatever it is you want to
stationary.
call it. Whatever it is you want to call it. How are we standing on it?
It's just with our feet. So it's a stationary topographical plane. It's geocentric cosmos. The Earth is in the center, as all evidence ever has shown us. Right? Your model claims it just looks like that. It's just an illusion. Full story, bro. Okay, the Earth's in the center. It doesn't move. It's a topographical plane. Seemingly, we're in a torus field, an electromagnetic torus field, and everything moves within that around the Earth. You're more dense than the air, so you go down. Density is held together with electrostatics. Electrostatics is 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity's even claimed to be. We have a downward electric current on the Earth, which is 10 microamps per meter. That's why we have a downward bias. That's why things go up and or down relative to their density relationship. Now substantiate your claim that we're on a ball bending convexly, omnidirectionally, and we're being pulled down in all directions by something called gravity that isn't defined.
Okay, gravity, right? I'm gonna start pretty simple. Pulls everything towards the center of this large mass, and when we stand on the planet, gravity pulls us downwards. When you go to higher elevations, you actually are slightly further away from the gravitational pull, so you're actually a little lighter. You can jump a little higher, right? Pretty neat. That was pretty easy, right? I understand that you're thinking that, he doesn't know what gravity is, and this is some sort of like conspiracy or something. I was like, but it's not. We have to go against the force of gravity, right? And you think it's air density? Is that what you think it is? Air density?
You don't listen. So
did you say
everything?
Air density? The reason why we're standing on the ground, you're saying we're being pushed down by air.
Everything's intrinsically electrostatic, and then objects go up or down relative to their density relationship. That's provable. If you want to talk about science, I can scientifically test what I'm saying. I can take an object that's more dense than the air, I can drop it, it goes down. Then I can use a Van de Graaff generator to introduce electrostatics. I can make the object levitate and or just go up. I can change its weight. I can change how fast it falls with electrostatics. All objects that exist are electrostatic. The air is electrostatic. Even in a vacuum, there's electrostatics. So I've now scientifically proven that electrostatics will change the weight of an object, how fast it falls, and its direction. Now, can you do the same thing with gravity? Can you give me an experiment that actually isolates gravity and proves it's the cause?
Okay, I'm ready to go to questions. I'm actually like, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go, and I'm not thrilled about this. And Witsit seem to be fairly uncharitable to having like just a regular conversation about what you believe and why. So
no, you're just not being very genuine about the interaction. Like I explained to you.
No, look, what I'm being is I'm being like straightforward on this, right? This is a fringe, weird belief that absolutely like very few people believe. I think this is what I think, honestly. I think this whole thing started with a bunch of very sad men in basements trying to get a lot of very special knowledge because their lives suck. And so they're trying very, very hard to have claims to special knowledge to try to make themselves feel more important. I also think that if you talk to any flat earthers, they're going to have completely radically different views of how this whole thing works. Some of them think the Illuminati did it. Some of them think that there's aliens somewhere that have constructed all this. You yourself think that because NASA has some strange beginnings, that it's like a giant lie constructed by I don't know who and for what purpose, right? This is all insane. So I wanted to sit here and get like a real understanding of what you're thinking and how you're thinking it. And it just seems to be like really snotty. So I would like to.
You're just not listening. Yeah, you're running away.
No,
because
I am listening, and there's no way. Look, as someone who likes to debate, there's no way for me to possibly prepare for this because out of the thousands of different tiny little things that people on the internet bring up about flat Earth, you could have created a whole nother 1,000. Because this is the kind of thing that you enjoy, and I understand that, right? I enjoy debate too, but you have this very strange position. You're trying to create these grand worldviews about it. You're trying to put a lot of people who work really hard, like the folks at NASA, into some strange, nefarious like purpose. Like, this is what I thought it would be, and it's really frustrating to me because it's just so obvious to me.
You're just appealing to emotion. That was an appeal to emotion.
That's not an appeal to
poisoning.
I don't care.
Fallacy.
Stop that. Nobody gives a shit. You heard me. Everyone heard me. We can move on to questions.
Now you're getting. All right, I gotta respond to some of that.
We
first.
definitely.
No, you don't.
Well,
wait.
I will say that.
Do you think you have special knowledge? Does it make you special? Right? These are all like. That seems to be what's going on.
So I get that this conversation sounds crazy when you first hear it. Like when I first heard that people thought the Earth was flat, and I was confused. I didn't even understand it. I'm like, this is stupid. We have pictures of Earth from space. And that's where you are, frankly. That's cool. I can relate to that. I get it. You probably haven't researched it. It hasn't clicked in your mind that it's even like a thing that makes sense to research, and that's whatever. But I used to be there, and believe it or not, so did tens of millions of people that now know that the Earth is not the globe that they told us it is, because you can go test it. So we didn't get to the real specifics here, which is that the Earth claims to be a sphere with a radius value of 3,959 miles. That means, based on basic geometry, the Earth has to curve at a very specific rate. It does not do that, my guy. I tested it all over the United States. It doesn't do that. You can see hundreds of miles away consistently. You can pull infrared out and see even further. The Earth is not what they said it is. You look into it, and the current model says, well, all evidence says we're in the center. We can't prove that we're going around the sun, but we're going around the sun because if we weren't, then maybe God made it and that would make us special. So in reality, it's some weirdos that hate God or whatever. So like they run around making up stories. And yes, most people are not in on the lie. In conclusion, most people believe the lie. Most of the people at NASA believe in the lie. Okay. So I wish that we would have got to more specifics, but per usual, if anyone watches this back and looks at the fallacies I listed off in the presentation, they were all used, and that's what always happens, effectively gaslighting. But I encourage the audience to actually look into some of the stuff I said and test it for yourself, because it may not be as crazy as you think it is. There you go.
Question for Witsit. Instead of all your fallacy stuff, could you present some evidence for a flat Earth?
I literally predicted that you were going to say that in the presentation. Like, just watch the presentation back. All this fallacy stuff, that's how debates work, intellectual form. The definition of a fallacy is an invalid argument. So we have fallacies for a reason, because what you're saying is stupid and illogical and it's inadmissible. That's why I have to call it fallacies.
Argument. Just saying,
It's
it's actually a breach of reasoning.
We'll give you a
It's
chance
not
there,
an invalid
Malachi.
argument.
Let's let him finish up. We'll give
Sure.
15 seconds.
Definition of a logical fallacy is an invalid argument. And so as to the positive evidence, I have literally presented it to you. Let me just shotgun some for you. Long distance radio waves, long distance line of sight horizontal microwaves, mirror flashes, long distance observations in both regular spectrum of light and infrared, laser tests at low elevations. We've tested the surface of the Earth with a supposed convexity,
5
and it
seconds
doesn't
there.
exist.
All right, any thoughts on that, Malachi?
Yeah, this is the same point I've been bringing up this whole time, is that there are no real arguments here, like, because you need to construct like a whole encompassing argument about the flat Earth. You need to show a model, you need to show how it works. What you're doing is the same thing that a lot of these flat earthers do, is that they choose one very specific thing or a couple of very specific things. They say, that's funky, that doesn't work the way I thought it would, and then they attack it thinking that they're actually making an argument, but they're not. All you're doing is saying that something is funky and more inquiry is needed.
Alrighty. So the question was towards you there, Austin. So any closing on that, or continue on?
Yeah. Empirical physical evidence that shows that the Earth's surface isn't curving is evidence for a flat Earth. It's pretty. If the surface of the Earth isn't curving, what is it? Okay, pretty simple stuff.
Alrighty. Congo again. 550. Question for Witsit. I use an equatorial mount. This only works if the Earth is spherical. My mount works. Please explain why it works.
I explain.
Equatorial? I'm not sure if I said
Equatorial.
that.
Equatorial.
I did say it right.
Yeah. So I explained in the presentation that the only evidence you'll ever give for the globe is someone saying the Earth's a globe. This can only happen if the Earth's a globe. This happens, thus the Earth's a globe. Begging the question or affirming the consequent. Anyway, and for any of those that don't know, equatorial mounts, they track the stars in the sky or a celestial body. They track them, right? As they go down to the horizon, because the stars move in our sky, it starts to then track down to the ground, right? So it's literally designed, assuming the Earth's a sphere, it tracks it down, which happens on a flat Earth. The stars get further away and they decline optically. And then it just tracks back down through the Earth and back up to when the stars come back around. The 15 degree per hour sidereal rotation measured for maybe 7,000 years, 5,000 years by now. So it doesn't prove the Earth is a sphere. Tracking the motion of the stars is actually just evidence that the stars move over a stationary Earth. So that's called begging the question.
All right. Let's continue.
So he asked for you to explain, real quick, he asked for you to explain how that works on your model. You didn't say how that works on your model.
I literally did, yeah. The stars
No, you
move
didn't.
in the sky. I said this already, but I'll say it.
How do the stars move in the sky when we have some flat plane? Where are the stars? There's you have a lot of work to do, is I think what the question is pointing out. You have a lot of work to do when it comes to creating an entire model that actually works and explains any of this.
Yeah.
And you can't just say they move, right? We know that they move because we're in a spherical globe. There's a whole universe around
That's
us.
weird.
We're seeing it. We're seeing you need to show that, is what this question is asking.
That's weird because the globe claims that they don't move, but they just look like they move, and it's just an illusion because we're moving. So
No, they do move. It's called red and blue shift is how we measure how fast they're moving away from us or towards us.
talking about sidereal rotation, it's an equatorial mount. Okay. Anyway,
Right.
so the stars
You
move in
haven't
the sky.
explained that.
The stars move in the sky. It's called sidereal rotation. As to what's the dynamics of it, meaning like the physical cause, the physical mechanism or force, that's a great question. The globe model doesn't know it either. Just explain that their best prediction's off 96%. but seemingly it would be electromagnetic. There's a vortex in the middle of the Earth that extends up and it creates the vortex motion called the Sagnac effect, which is literally what's used to calibrate ring laser gyros, which measure the sidereal rotation. It's called the Sagnac effect, discovered by Sagnac, who said it's a vortex in the ether. So all of the motions fit within ellipses inside of a torus field. So I think the person that discovered the technology we use to measure it was correct, and that the default empirical evidence is true, not the opposite claim without evidence.
Next question.
Yes, over here. Right. In episode BF12, you were battling barbarians while riding a winged Appaloosa. Yet in the very next scene, my dear, you're clearly atop a winged Arabian. Please to explain it.
Yeah. Well, whenever you notice something like that, a wizard did it.
I see, all right, yeah. But in episode AG4...
Wizard. Something like that, a wizard did it.
Okay, well, all I can speak to is what their openly admitted contracts are, which are with augmented reality, virtual reality, a company that specializes in, say, for example, you can be talking in front of a green screen and live time, which is actually very impressive technology. Live time, they can make it look like they're in a real professional, like Fox Sports studio, but they're just in front of a green room, which has been done for a while, but live is tricky. They have a contract with that company. I mean, as to what they're doing specifically, it looks like they're using chroma keys, blue and green screens, augmented reality. They're using contacts that use virtual reality. You can see the contacts literally change in their eyes. You can watch them look forward as they're trying to grab objects, which is what you do with virtual reality overlaid. And then they miss the object, or there's not an object there, or their hand goes through the object, or objects fall in 0G. So I don't trust what they do. It's that simple. There's enough evidence there to not trust them, much less build my entire worldview off of ignoring the thousands of glitches, or let's say hundreds of glitches. So I just think that's weird, bro. I don't believe in the government. Like, I want evidence I can test myself. Are you not here for the last 3 years? We should probably not blindly believe the government that flops every day and has your worst interest in mind.
You think that they're both brilliant and inept at the same time, and it just doesn't work.
No, there's no they. It's a compartmentalized group of people, okay? And if you can explain to me why NASA needs a contract with a company that makes a studio look like it's something it's not, live time with green screen, feel free to enlighten me. But until then, you can give some understandable way that makes sense. When I see their hands go through microphones, I know that's physically impossible, but it's exactly what happens with augmented reality that's layered.
A wizard
So
did it.
I don't know. Are you scared to look into it? You should look into it at Super Suspect. You might want to know what you're defending. The government is, NASA is faking footage. It's easy to prove that. You just have to go watch it.
I definitely haven't mastered it. I'll give you a try and I'll show you just how bad it is.
It's a miracle.
Practice makes perfect. Give me another week.
Wizard.
The idea that there's these massively well-funded, conspiratorial, I don't know, Illuminati, Freemason, Nazi craziness, I don't know what you're all about, right? The idea that there's this huge, vast expanse of people that are working live with everybody, and they get wire harnesses, like, the Marvel movies don't get wire harnesses wrong, right? They get wire harnesses wrong, they get video editing techniques wrong, there's like artifacts of CGI, right? No, that is ridiculous. You want to talk about like strange and conspiratorial thinking? That is far beyond the pale when it comes to just being absolutely deluded in your beliefs.
NASA's contracts, and they have contracts with companies that specialize in aerial performances, specifically harnesses that can't be detected by an audience, are very lightweight and maneuverable. They have tons of contracts with augmented reality companies, virtual reality companies, companies that specialize in creating a set live time via augmented reality. All these are contracted through NASA. We've looked through their footage and caught some of it glitching out. So either you can research it or not, and check out auditnasa.com because we're coming out with a documentary exposing them, and either stick your head in the sand or look into what you may not know.
Okay, so just to recap on that, you said that they have a contract with a group of event production people who are specialized at making harnesses that you can't see, and yet you saw it?
No, you don't see the wires, but you can see that the shirt moves. Yeah.
A shirt moves is your evidence that NASA is full of shit. Okay.
Specifically
cool.
at angles that are impossible in zero-G physically. According to physics, in zero-G, your shirt can't go like this and then pull your body forward. That's not how zero-G works, and it happens consistently on the ISS.
Yeah, that goes back to the Neil deGrasse Tyson quote. You're trying to create grand worldviews out of very little evidence.
Just broad and vague hand-wave dismissal is your debate tactic. It's not very good.
Thank you.
Problem.
Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
Witsit did it.
Wizard.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.